with this normalization of the far right in this country, and this idea that you're just voting for the opposition, I think this is a dangerous party. If we look at Farage's alliance with Trump and Trump's open warfare with democracy, his statements that he's going to be a dictator on day one, I don't think that it is something casual to just say, oh well, maybe they'll make a better opposition. Since I've been here, this country has been in the grips of a scandal about Rishi Sunak's actions around D-Day, and I understand why people are offended. I understand the pain that this is evoked, but to me, the lessons of the Second World War, the lessons of D-Day, the way to honor the many, many victims is to look at history and look at the conditions under which the far right rises. And I think it's when the right makes an alliance of convenience with the far right. That is when fascism rises. I think that the Tories know they're going to lose, and they seem to be practically throwing the election. They've basically written it off. And it seems like Labour is trying not to make any sudden movements and to send lots of reassuring messages that very little really is going to change. And I think if we look at the European elections,
are you disappointed by that?
I am. I'm not just disappointed. I'm worried, because if we look at what just happened in Europe, if we look at what Schulz is doing, I'm seeing Labour poised to make the same mistakes, which absolutely I think will win an election, but will set the table for a far-right comeback. That's what I'm worried about. I think the message that we're seeing from Europe is there really need to be policies that meet people's most urgent needs. And this idea of what we're hearing from your leader about these fiscal rules and basically sounding like Margaret Thatcher on running a government like a household, which is ridiculous, is going to set the table for a far-right comeback.
Monday, 10 June, the year of our Lord 2024. What a clip. What a great clip. Ben Harnwell, as we talked about in the morning show, absolutely tectonic plate shift. Heads are blowing up all over Europe. And here's a good thing about the European parliamentary elections. It sent for the first time really shockwaves through national governments. Now, clearly, in the UK, you don't have that problem since you actually got your sovereignty back in 2016 with Brexit. But remember, that was the predicate to the Trump revolt, the Trump win in November. Brexit happened in late June. Your commentary, thoughts, you're going to co-host maybe for the whole hour about what's happened 24 hours after, or 20 hours after the European parliamentary elections.
Steve, you're trolling me by giving me a cold open with Naomi Klein. For the Warren Posse, this is basically a communist, this woman. To give you an idea of just what a grifter she is, she's pushed out a whole book claiming to be popularly confused.
On the War Room. Oh, no, she's not. I love her. She wrote a whole book about us. We haven't profiled it. We'll have to go in more depth, called Doppelganger, of which she went after Naomi Wolf. For being on War Room.
For which she claims she's confused and barred from all the best salons now because people confuse her with War Room's Naomi Wolf. Right? And she's pushed out a whole book. She's given herself a second wind now because this woman had no traction. And now she's back. She's back in the television studios on the back of this book. Sort of poor Naomi Wolf, right? The War Room's very own Naomi Wolf, right? And she didn't do anything to deserve this. So that's Naomi Klein, folks. Look, it's a load of nonsense what she said. Dismiss all of it, apart from one interesting thing. She says that Keir Starmer will win, but that will set the table for a far-right comeback. Now, she might actually be right on that, but not in the sense that she intends.
Hang on. That's my theory of the case. That's why Nigel's in here. Keir Starmer, they're going to pick up 400 seats. Tories are finished, but that sets up for the true populist nationalist. That's what Brexit didn't do. The British did not embrace nationalism when they did Brexit. Boris Johnson tried to have Singapore on the Thames. He didn't go to the heart of the problem, sir.
Well, it's right, but Boris Johnson lacked a certain focus. But I think his intentions were laudable. I think his idea of doing that was okay. He didn't even try. Because that guy's so easily distracted. But her whole shtick, her opening shtick in the beginning of the first one, saying that, this is normalization, this is the existence of Nigel Farage, right, is normalization of the far right. And yet her exhibit A on this, in fact, her only exhibit that Nigel Farage is the normalization of the far right. The only thing she can pin on him to say that this guy is far right is folks, what is it? He supports Donald Trump. And wow. Naomi, right? That's the best you can do. And he just, but this is this stuff. This is the nonsense on which sort of British. I think that was a BBC clip, wasn't it? This is the nonsense that they push out and pump in to the Brits' heads. The British people are basically like foie gras geese, right? They have the pipe down the throat and they just force-fed 24 hours, 7. This nonsense, this absolute nonsense, which has no real relationship to the truth.
Hang on for 1 second. You're my co-host. You're going to be coming in and out. I want to thank you for being up tonight in Rome. I want to go, Bensman. We sent you on not a sabbatical. You took off, and at the time I was saying, "Hey, dude, we got so much going on here. The border's on fire." You said, "I've got to go there." You actually spent a month, I think 30 days. You went to 9 countries, all frontline, all about the border. And yesterday, you see it manifested. The biggest issue, number one issue, is the invasion of these borders, the lack of sovereignty that kind of led to the rise of the right. But most importantly, you got national governments falling. The Belgium prime minister resigns. The French Macron dissolves parliament. There's pressures in Ireland. So you kind of warned us about this. This was going to happen months ago. Tell me about it.
Yeah, that's right. There's an uprising among European populations, voting publics, over illegal immigration through the external borders there. Europeans are in the midst of a mass migration crisis, nowhere near the U.S. one, because nothing in history has really rivaled ours, of course. But there is a very, very significant, heavy mass migration crisis coming through the Balkan routes and through the Mediterranean. I was all along the Balkan routes on the ground, interviewing the immigrants and UN agencies and everybody who has a stake in that. And it was clear back in November, December, that the right of center pro border security right was going to rise. It was already clear back then, and it just happened. That's what happened. And it's because the liberal parties, they were trying to message right-wing sounding kind of border security policies, but nobody believes them. They're full of it. They're talking tough, kind of like Joe Biden is right now. But we all know that Joe Biden doesn't mean it. And everybody knows that Macron didn't mean it and Scholz didn't mean it. Look at Le Pen's party.
Okay, hold it. Stop. Stop. Full stop. This is the signal. They knew they had a problem in polling. I'm going to get a clip in polling in a second. They knew they had a political problem because people weren't buying anymore. Their lived experience, they could see it. They tried to have a bunch of these performative policies. The people in Europe look through it to the degree that Macron's government's essentially, he got 15% yesterday. That's why he had to dissolve parliament. He could be tossed theoretically, possibly in a couple of weeks because of this. It's the exact same thing you've been reporting on, not just there, but with Joe Biden, this performative EO that he's done right now. It's the exact same thing. They understand these policies are rejected on the ground by the citizens of that country. They will do, these globalists will do everything to do something performative just to think, oh, I'm really taking action. But people sit there and go, that's a lie. And I want to throw these bums out. Is that basically your theory of the case?
Right. I mean, I promise you that the Situation Room in the Biden campaign is a buzz today over this. They are freaked out. What happened in Europe is going to happen here, and that's what they're worried about. They're going to do what they can, but people are sick and tired of these mass migrations, like the rank and file, that just people can see what's happening. They've got a long track record of terror attacks, bloody terror attacks from one end of the European continent to the other for 5, 6, 7 years straight. They get it. And they also know that it is on again. It is on again. And the reason it's on again is because there are certain liberal governments, I'll just say Slovenia is one of them, that is that are like a weak link in the chain link fence. They're getting through there in Slovenia. They're getting through. They just put together a pact on migration and asylum that if you read the fine print, like you read the fine print of the Biden administration's EO, is filled with exceptions that swallow up the rule. It's all BS, and everybody knows it. And that's what's going on there, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I wouldn't be surprised if...
Your takeaways, the situation room in the Biden thing. One last thing before I go to this clip about polling is that, you've warned about this. You told about the EO. The story up in just the San Diego sector, they've identified, they see an internal memo that identifies it's just Russians and people on the Central Asian stands that are to be precluded. Everybody else, come on in. You're going to get papers, and we'll see you in 7 years. Is that your understanding of this memo that's been floating around?
Right. Well, nobody in the war room posse should be surprised by this because, I and probably other guests have been on your show over and over again telling your people that this EO is complete BS. There's no teeth in it. It's all gum and no teeth. And what you're seeing with these memos that are coming out, there's a few memos coming out that are telling the frontline guys, you got to let everybody in. Pretty much let everybody in. I would be hard pressed. I'd like to see an immigrant that actually gets sent back. Like somebody find me one. Maybe there'll be some, but not enough to really change the momentum of the inflow here at all. It's all performative, and like you said, and also you're already starting to see the Biden campaign and administration officials do exactly what I said that they were going to do, which is shift the blame over to the Republicans for killing that Langford bill. They are all over the place already today. The lawsuits happened. ACLU, I told you there were going to be lawsuits. They lawsuit this thing to death. And then the very next thing they would do is start blaming the Republicans. They're getting ready for that televised debate here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and play the clip. I want to play the polling clip first, and then I got one about what happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday about your terrorists coming across the border. Let's do the polling clip first.
Principle. Would you support a new government program that would deport all people living in the U.S. illegally? And that finds majority favor. That finds 6 and 10. It's strongest among folks who are MAGA. It's strongest among Trump supporters, but also from some Democrats as well. And I think that speaks to the general idea, not just that people see the border as a crisis, but also where we are in the campaign, where a lot of very dramatic or new proposals out there are finding favor here.
And then depending on the details of what's talked about on the campaign trail, some of what Mr. Trump talks about could be illegal. It doesn't seem practical in some sense to round up children. And then we know that the courts have questioned whether local authorities would have the ability to do it. And federal authorities don't have the resources. So what exactly do people think they're supporting?
Well, when you measure public sentiment on this or really just about any policy, you're getting a sense of direction. You're getting broad brushstrokes. But those kinds of details, well, that's often up to the legislatures and the courts later on. We tested even the idea of should local law enforcement be involved in this? And a lot of folks do say yes. Again, the details of that, the specifics, you're not going to pick that up in an aggregate public opinion.
They weren't tracking the Supreme Court decisions.
Undoubtedly not. But look, it does tell you, though, for the viewer watching this campaign, that what we're seeing here connects to whether it's the courts, what some people say is the politicization of the courts, these ideas of mass deportations, etc. We are in a different era in which a lot of folks say the system as a whole is not working. And all of these, if you connect the dots through them, are part of that reaction against it, which explains some of that general sentiment for some of these policies.
It's really just kind of a do something.
Do something.
Another bombshell yesterday on the mass deportation. You saw the CBS correspondent there, the host of Face the Nation, trying to push back and say, "Oh, how can this be?" Overwhelming, north of 60%, and sometimes up to 80%, whatever the policy is, on mass deportations. The operative word is mass. Todd Bensman, you've told us this is where America is. Now it's being manifested in these polls, in the mainstream media is in total and complete meltdown. Your thoughts, sir?
Right. I'm surprised that they're so surprised. This thing has been going on for 3.5 years. The polling was there in 2022. It's just simply gotten worse since 2022 because the pipeline burst and splattered all over every wall of every major city in the country. And now they're having to deal with that mess. So this shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. Trump surely zeroed in on this early and often, and he understands he won his first presidency on this issue. He may very well win a second presidency on this issue, and they're all freaked out about it, but surprised. I don't understand how they're surprised. Like they don't know that millions and millions of people were allowed, engineered, organized to cross our southern border and pour into every city in America with their hands out. Of course, people are going to be voting.
It's going to be a reaction. Yes. Right. It's going to be a reaction. The liberal progressive media is in denial. I've got Major Chodoff, who's in northern Israel. I'm going to get to him in a second. And Ben, I'll get to you in that segment. I want to finish because Todd, before you wrote the book Overrun, you spent a couple of years and you talked about jihadists coming across the border and terrorists coming across the border. People didn't pay enough attention at the time. You know, at We Build the Wall, that was one of the principal things that we said symbolically. You got to build this wall and you got to do it quickly because this is one of the problems. In Washington, D.C. on a Sunday, Saturday. It was Saturday. Saturday was this incredible riot that happened across the street from the White House. Do we have a clip? I want to play a little bit of it. I want to get your thoughts, Todd, and then I want to get the Major in here. But folks, we are seeing things now with these pro-Hamas groups and these groups that are anti-American that we've never seen in this country before. Let's see it from really right across the street from the White House. The mainstream media did not play this up. This was shocking and it was dangerous. I've never seen more hatred in my life. The hatred not just for Israel, but for the United States of America, desecration of our statues and monuments. But Todd, the reason I wanted you to stick around for this before I go to the major is you warned us years ago that part of this open borders policy, that jihadists and other Sharia supremacists, et cetera, are pouring across this border. That group, and I keep telling people, these are not simply college students. This is well-financed, it's well-organized, and you have some very, very bad hombres. You got a lot of college kids there, et cetera. That's unacceptable. But you got some very bad hombres. I mean, they're throwing stuff at park rangers. They're desecrating sites. The Secret Service backed off yesterday. I mean, there's much more violent footage we could put up there than that. Your thoughts from the guy that's really tracked jihadists coming across the border, sir?
Well, we have 360 known suspected terrorists on the FBI's watch list that we've apprehended crossing the southern border. But last week I wrote a piece, and I think I'm still the only one in the country to have written about this court case right out of Sacramento, federal court case of a jihadist who crossed the southern border and went right to work plotting to support al-Nusra Front over in Syria, and the FBI thought that he also was going to go kinetic. He was just convicted and sentenced this year, and he crossed the southern border. That is a bona fide convicted terrorist under terrorism statutes in the United States who cross the southern border. And that comes on the heels of a Jordanian who crossed the southern border and went on to conduct an attempted vehicle ramming attack at Quantico on May 3rd. And nobody will talk about it with the administration, and the media won't cover it. Nobody will cover this thing or talk about it. But he was a Jordanian border crosser. A lot of Palestinians, by the way, have Jordanian passports. And he was with another quote unquote Jordanian in that truck. Luckily, the Marines thwarted that attack. I believe that was a jihadist attack motivated by terrorism because of the way the administration is responding to questions about it. They won't rule it out, which means that it was a terror attack in my view. But in any case, the FBI director is warning that the border is a sieve for terrorists. The DHS 2024 threat assessment warns that the border is wide open to terror infiltration and attack. So it's not just crazy Todd Bensman, it's mainstream intelligence community stuff at this point.
Yeah. This Biden regime, they're putting it out there. I mean, it's their DHS, their FBI, they're putting it out there. Todd, where do people go to get the books, the writings, more than ever, social media, because you're on point on this thing. It's getting more and more dangerous every day.
ToddBensman.com. You can get access to all my social media. I work for the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. A bunch of my stuff is up there too. Keep your eye on me in the next couple days. I've got a good one coming.
We will have you up when the good one comes up. They're not good. They're great. You're right now in the middle of this, and this is the centerpiece of the elections, but both in Europe and here. France fell because of this. You warned people, and even Macron didn't take it seriously. You're absolutely right. In the situation room of the Biden regime's reelection, they're in shock right now about what they saw in Europe, particularly since Biden was with Macron for 72 hours. He's the cooler. Yes, sir?
The rally party scored twice as big a percentage as Macron's party. That's Le Pen. Le Pen beat him hard.
Yeah. He was 15%, so that's why he dissolved Parliament. By the way, it's still Front National to me. Anyway, thank you, brother. Look forward to having you back on. Major Chodoff, IDF, I think you're reserve and retired. But, sir, is it being reported in Israel on media, the violence, and before I talk about the defense of the north of Israel, are they getting the real facts of what's happening? What's happening in the United States with these riots, and that's what it was on Saturday, are things I've never seen before. It's absolute disgrace. And these are professional jihadists that are in this crowd. A lot of these people egging it on. Are the Israeli people actually getting this?
Yes, it's being very clearly covered in the mainstream media here. We've been watching it from day one. Remember that the demonstrations against Israel started already on October 8th. In other words, today Rafah is the subject of the day, but the support for Hamas, for their murder, kidnapping, rape, body snatching, already began the day after it happened, long before Israel even thought of a response, let alone put it into action. And yes, we watch that very closely. Israel doesn't have a lot of friends out there. America is pretty much it. A couple of others. And for most Israelis, it's critically important to see what's happening on the streets and the campuses of America. So yes, we see it, and yes, we watch it.
Major, hang on. We're taking a short commercial break. We're going to talk about the defense and where the war's going, not just in Gaza or in Judea, Samaria against the Muslim Brotherhood franchisee Hamas, but I think where the real fight is with the Persian militias. This is about Persia versus the West. Israel is just their first bite, but they're coming for America. Short commercial break. We'll be back in the war room in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Steve Stern, CEO of Flagshirt.com, a third-generation, veteran-owned small business. I believe that the American way of life is for all of us. I'm asking you today to visit Flagshirt.com. Help keep the American dream alive. Be a flag waver. Carry a nation's heritage. Use coupon code ACTION10 for 10% off site-wide and buy a flag shirt today. Action, action, action.
Action, action, action. This show is for activists. That's why the show is so big and so powerful, because of you, not because of us. Next man up in the war room. Remember, it's always next man up. The what's going to happen to this country, whether we bequeath a constitutional republic to our children and grandchildren, is dependent upon you. Not Trump, not Bannon, not Tucker Carlson, you. It's on your shoulders. Next man up. Major, I've never seen anything. I keep telling people this is not about Israel. It's not about the Jewish people. This is about the United States of America and the Judeo-Christian West, and they are rolling hard. What happened over the weekend in Washington, D.C., and was allowed to happen, and you had the Secret Service back off. You had the poor Park Service guys. I mean, they're the most general. They're like Smokey the Bear guys. There's people throwing stuff at them. Dangerous. The Secret Service backed off. The DC, more of the special police backed off. This is a crowd. If you've been a Jewish person and walked through there, you'd have been torn limb for limb, and it's getting out of control here. And we haven't started, I think, the most important part of the war. Please tell me, you're in the North right now. I've been telling people, hey, this is all about Persia in the West, like it always has been. They're coming in hard on the Israelis, and they're coming in hard from Lebanon with Hezbollah and these other Persian-backed militias. Can you give us get us an update, a situation report on where we really stand on the war in the North?
Okay, let's start by breaking down a little bit the distinction between Hezbollah and the other groups. Iran is behind militias in Iraq, militias in Syria, the Houthis in Yemen. They've got proxies like Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Hezbollah has to be put in an entirely different category. Hezbollah is not a proxy and it's not a militia. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of the Quds Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. Hezbollah was established by Ayatollah Khomeini. And when we start with that understanding, we realize that we're talking about an entirely different organization, different in type. They are not working with Iran. They're not working for Iran. They are part of Iran. They take their orders from Tehran and from Iran. So that's first and foremost. And remember, Ayatollah Khomeini was the guy who said that Israel was the little Satan and America is the great Satan. And when he was talking about little and great, he wasn't speaking in geographical terms. He was speaking in his theological terms. America is the great evil in the world as far as the Khomeinyists are concerned, and that's the Iran of today. Hezbollah is orders of magnitude better equipped, better trained, better organized, and better backed by Iran than Hamas is. In other words, what we've seen over the past 7 months, 8 months in Gaza is a very, very small fraction of what we're actually facing with Hezbollah in the north. Now, since October 7th,
hang on. This is what I want people to understand. The Muslim Brotherhood franchisee of Hamas, and it has got Persian money too, they're a terrorist organization within a group, and they fight. Hezbollah, the Persians up and the Persian-backed guys up in the north, they're light infantry, and probably pound for pound, maybe the best light infantry in the world, except for the IDF. This is a real fighting force. You're going to fight a much more. That's a conventional war up there. You're going to have missiles, airplanes, close air support. You got artillery. This is a real, like what we call war. This is not some terrorism. Yes. As bad as Gaza is, as bad as Judea Samaria is, this is a different deal. And these guys, and the guys down in Hamas, yes, they're terrorists, but it's still Hamas. I mean, come on. Hezbollah is pound for pound maybe the best in the world. With the IDF, these are trained. They fought for decades. This is a light infantry. These are light infantry elements, and you're going to have a real good old-fashioned war up to the north. Is that a good summary?
That's a very good summary. They are well-trained light infantry. They have high skills in terms of their fieldcraft. And here, full disclosure, I'm the co-author of the fieldcraft manual for the IDF ground forces a couple of decades ago. And when I watch these guys, I look at them on that level of professionalism. They are very well trained in their weapons. We're seeing their work now. Everybody's talking about the rockets that they're firing. Their anti-tank missile skills are extremely impressive, and they're causing a lot of damage as a result of that. Their technology skills are very good. They've managed to put drones very deep into northern Israel. They've done a lot of damage. Keep in mind, there are nearly 100,000 Israelis who are internal refugees in Israel because they've been evacuated from the northern border. They are highly skilled. They are motivated. They're trained. They're organized. And yes, I think what we're going to be seeing in Lebanon is call it an old-fashioned style, but it won't be old-fashioned because of new technology. Maneuver war that's going to involve armored brigades with infantry support, artillery, really a high maneuver and high firepower war of the likes that we haven't seen in the Middle East, at least, since 1973.
Okay, so help me out here, Major. This is why I wanted to have you on today, and I want to get you back on so we go more of the tactical details of what's going to happen. Here's what I don't get. And I'm opposed, and I've been opposed to Netanyahu coming over here because I keep saying.
Sorry, I just got an alert that there's a drone attack not far from here.
Wow, unbelievable. In the north. I'm not a fan of Netanyahu coming over here because my point is now you got to get on with it and you got to get the war. You got to get the Hamas part taken care of because then you got to pivot. To you, strategically, if there's this much blowback throughout the world, and I could play videos all weekend where we're in Sweden and Norway, and these are not like Swedes and Norwegians. This is all the migrants that have gone there the last 20 years. There's this anti-Israel hatred that's going on even where we are in Hamas. How are we then going to pivot to a war that's going to be much bigger in scale and much more of, I think a lot more casualties, a lot more firepower, and it's going to be a war to the knife because neither side's going to back off. How are we going to win the information war if, to be brutally frank, we're losing the information war throughout the world, and we're particularly losing it here in the United States of America, sir?
I agree with you, and I watch the news. Even this most recent hostage rescue that is turned into the bloodbath of Nusayrat, all these innocent women and children who are running around there firing RPGs at our troops. And the whole thing is absurd. And I agree with you. The information war is one that we're losing, I think, in part because of poor performance on our part. And by our part, I mean Israel, the Israeli government, and also Israel supporters. But there's a sort of a hard wall to get through when the media refuses to report the truth, when it'll spin the truth The average person isn't interested. And you know what? If you repeat, Goebbels and Hitler said it, you repeat the big lie often enough, it becomes the truth. How many times do you say, murdering children and genocide, don't confuse me with the facts that my mind is already made up. But to answer your question, how do we do it? We don't have any choice. Hezbollah draws its ideology, by the way, as does Hamas, from the Nazis. And I say that not lightly. There's very good research on it. There's good literature on it, and citable, that they literally draw from Hitler, from Mein Kampf, and their objective is the genocide of the Jewish people. They say so outright. So with all due disrespect to public opinion, Israel's going to have to fight them because we're fighting a war of survival against them. This is not over a strip of territory or whether we do or don't go into Rafah or in the north, whether it's Sidon or Thayer. This is an organization that wants to wipe out the Jews. And quite frankly, we're not interested in that.
Major, when do you think the pivot's going to come? And are they going to wait to the situation where Hamas is taking care of Rafah and Judea Samaria? Or are you guys, is Israel going to get it on in a bigger scale with the Persians in Lebanon and northern Israel sooner?
I think preferable would be to finish at least the large-scale military operations in Gaza. By the way, not so much because of the front combat troops. I'm talking about the tanks and the infantry. We have that in addition to operating in the north. Our weakness is in combat support, artillery and air, and in part because of very poor strategic policies by Israel over the past decade in cutting some of our military resources. And I don't think they would be well divided between Gaza and Lebanon. It could be done, but that would be, given the option, that would be a mistake. In any event, we are only now in the second week of June, going into the third week of June, in a period where the weather is conducive to Israeli-style maneuver warfare. Israel doesn't really have 4 seasons. We have 2 seasons. We have a rainy season and a dry season. We have just ended, for all intents and purposes, the rainy season. It rained a couple of weeks ago. That's probably going to be the last rain until September or October. Mud plays havoc with armored vehicles in the field. That's an old rule, and anybody who's ever had to deal with it is aware of it. We are now past the mud stage, which means that at least the weather is conducive to an Israeli operation. When exactly? Above my pay grade, in terms of Israelis' choice to do it. I think we're looking at maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't want to go too far out on a limb on that. However, it could happen sooner if a Hezbollah strike is particularly lethal. In what I commonly refer to as the nursery school scenario, pick your tragedy, but a Hezbollah rocket or a drone hits a building with a nursery school, kills, pick your horror number of children, and then we're at war the next day.
Major, how do people get to your site about your books you're writing, and particularly your social media, sir?
My writings are articles. The best way to find them is on Google. I'll be starting a podcast in about a week or so, and I'll be happy to pass that on. I haven't even named it yet, but I'll be pushing it out there considerably. I'm also in the finishing stages of co-authoring a book on global anti-Semitism. So again, as soon as that comes out, be happy to let you know.
We want to launch your podcast here in the War Room, so we'll stay in touch. Thank you, Major. Great
Very
update.
Good, thank you.
Great brief. Israel in the north, I'm telling you, it's going to be a much bigger battle than what you're seeing in Gaza, 2 orders of magnitude bigger. The Chinese Communist Party is underwriting a bunch of this through the mullahs in Persia. Dr. Thayer, amazing piece, you and Paul Berkowitz. I only got a couple of minutes now, but I want to have you back maybe tomorrow. Bill Gertz may join us too in the 6 o'clock show. You wrote an amazing piece. This has been a formal report to show what you've been arguing for years, how the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party are the richest people on earth and have essentially stolen all the wealth of China. from Lao Beijing, sir.
Indeed, they have, Stephen. A great pleasure to join you again. So Paul Berkowitz and I wrote this piece, which appeared in the Sunday Guardian, which is a great paper in India, one of their best, calling attention to the corrupt nature of the Chinese Communist Party, the fact that they're nominally communist and yet they're all billionaires, right? Deca-billionaires at least. And so what Senator Rubio has done, as well as Andy Ogles and some other good folks on the Hill, have done, is to try to pulse both the intelligence community to have a public document in time that hasn't appeared yet, but also the Congressional Research Service, which has published a public document really exploring the nature of their corruption and the wealth that they have around the world. And it's about time, Steve, we go on the offensive in political warfare. And this is a key step to do it, to demonstrate the corrupt nature of the Chinese Communist Party, which reveals the fundamental nature of them. They're a colonial regime put in power by the Soviet Union, and they rule basically, they're a group of thugs ruling China that has nothing to do with China-ness, which has nothing to do with the great civilization of China or its past, and let's hope its future as well. So this is a key aspect, if you will, a key arrow in the quiver of offensive political warfare, going after the CCP, showing their illegitimacy, showing that they're a colonial product and that they're not fit to rule the Chinese people.
The Chinese, real quickly before you bounce, I'll have you back on 6. I think I'll get you, Gertz. Hopefully Berkowitz will be ready. We'll do a whole hour on it. But the Chinese people don't, I think it's hidden from them. And this is one of the points. If they understand that their wealth has been stolen by these thugs, these criminals, they'll be outraged. This is one way to overthrow this dictatorial regime. I mean, in your report, the report from CRS and your write-up in the Sunday Guardian of India is jaw-dropping. I mean, these are the richest families on earth. These are richer than the Saudis. This is richer than the Russian oligarchs or the oligarchs that have stolen all the money in Ukraine. I mean, the wealth, the Gulf Emirates pale in comparison to these guys. These are the wealthiest families on earth, sir.
Indeed, they are, and they've been at it a lot longer. Since 1949, they've been accumulating their ill-gotten gains. And so that's exactly right. And our piece dovetails very closely with Bill Gertz's exceptional reporting on this topic. But it shows that, again, they're just chock full of, they're full of lies, right? Every aspect of this is illegitimate, of their rule, of the CCP's rule is illegitimate. And their personal wealth is beyond essentially almost accounting. It's going to take, obviously, good folks working together to find out the wealth, to reveal the wealth in London and in Switzerland, in the Gulf, and Hong Kong and elsewhere, Steve, as you know. But it shows that, again, because they're illegitimate, the Chinese people and people of goodwill around the world need to work together to evict them from power.
Dr. Thayer, where do people go to get the book with you and Captain Fennell, to get this report, to get all your writings and your social media?
Jim Fennell and I wrote Embracing Communist China, America's Greatest Strategic Failure, which is available at Amazon or wherever you buy books. And I'm at Bradley Thayer on Getter and Bradley Thayer at Truth and Brad Thayer on X. And the CRS, the Congressional Research Service report, is available at the CRS website. And I'll send those details, Steve, so that they can be posted as well.
And we'll see you back at 6. We'll have Gertz is committed tomorrow. We have Berkowitz up. He was unavailable today. And Dr. Thayer, all three of us will go through an hour and actually tell you the type of wealth we're talking about. Dr. Bradley Thayer, once again, knocked it out of the park. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Great pleasure. Thanks.
Birch Gold, times of turbulence. You just heard. We wanted to give you a heads up. The Israelis and the Persians are going to get it on in the north. Do not think that's not going to happen. That's going to happen, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be an old-fashioned combined arms war. So you think you had times of turbulence? You think what happened over the weekend, the European parliamentary elections were times of turbulence? You ain't seen nothing yet. That's why you need to go to Birch Gold, because you need a hedge against times of turbulence, a monetary hedge. Go to birchgold.com/Bannon. and make sure you check it out. Talk to Philip Patrick and the team. Also, Jace Medical. The shortages of medicine is a fact of your medicines. You don't, and this will be life or death for many people. You need to go to jacemedical.com/Bannon today. Talk to Dr. Sean and the team. jacemedical.com. Do it today. I've got about a minute and a half, 90 seconds, my co-host. Your thoughts on what you heard, particularly on mass migration, the tectonic plate shifts, and the winds of change, brother?
Well, let me quickly go to The Guardian, because I like what they said. That basically mirrors my reading of the European elections. They had a guy from the German Institute of International Affairs say this, that European politics are going to get more polarizing, more politicized, and more populist. And I think that's absolutely right. And that's only a good thing, because the more impactful European politics are, the more people will take note, the more people that stop taking note, because there's a lot of apathy, the more people that will be coming over to our side. With regards to the immigration point, it's absolutely clear, I think, that the United States of America has a large contingent within it that loathes and detests the Judeo-Christian West. But it's not all people coming in over the border. There are people who've been coming in legally. And to some extent, that could even be the greater challenge for America to get to grips with. I know I don't have very much time, but as Todd Bensman was talking, I just digged up this quote from what Ted Kennedy, if he's looking up at us, smiling benevolently for all the damage he's done to the United States, back in the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965. He says this: "The bill will not flood our cities with immigrants. It will not upset the ethnic mix of our society. It will not relax the standards of admission. It will not cause American workers to lose their jobs." Steve, every one of those things 60 years ago is an outright, in-your-face lie. And the United States, as we saw from the clips that you had earlier, is living the consequences of that. Never trust progressives when they bombard you over their head with platitudes, Steve.
Ben Harnwell, we'll see you in the morning. Lou Dobbs is next. We're back at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow morning in the War Room. Until then, I want to thank our sponsors, Patriot Mobile, Silent, SLNT.com, Birch Gold, all of them. Go check them out today. Lou Dobbs is up.